Good evening, and welcome to Creative Broadcasting, the station of unlimited possibilities, presents Creating Your Seat at the Table with your host, Ashley Little, as she welcomes her guest to the table.
Welcome to Creating Your Seat at the Table. I am your host, Ashley Little. A little bit about myself: senior executive by day, serial entrepreneur by night, CEO and founder of Ashley Little Enterprises, LLC, and founder and owner of Talk Radio and TV Network. Tonight, we have an amazing special VIP guest by the name of Jeremy Knox. A little bit about him. Jeremy Knox is a software engineering leader, blockchain executive, and cryptocurrency expert. He has over 12 years of experience developing cutting-edge applications specializing in big data. Jeremy also has 5 years of experience investing in blockchain technologies. His passion is educating on the benefits of blockchain technologies to groups of all ages and backgrounds. He currently serves as the founder and chief analyst of Hive Mind Trading, which is a subsidiary of Jeremy Knox Crypto. During the 2020-2021 Bitcoin bull run, he has led over 200 people in their crypto journey. He also currently serves as CTO at Synergist Global Advisors, where he specializes in advising clients on how to best use blockchain solutions to solve their business problems. He also helps them develop their own projects by consulting on software architecture and development strategies that will work for their company or organization. Welcome to the table, the amazing Jeremy Knox.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited and pumped to be at the table and discussing blockchain technologies with you today. And I'm ready to get started whenever you are.
Well, you know what? I'm excited to have you here. So let's just talk about it. I know the audience has heard your amazing bio, but tell us more about your journey.
All right. So I actually made my first purchase of Bitcoin over the summer of 2017. I had been involved and, aware of the technology since 2012, but I had never took that step to, purchase my first Bitcoin back when it was, less than $100, right? And at that time, it was a bunch of scams, MLMs that were happening. So, I was wary. But then I got a text message from one of my younger brothers in my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha. And he showed me a before photo of his portfolio at $10,000. Then he showed me an after photo at $40,000. I was like, wait a minute, how did you just... No, wait a minute, we got to talk. At that moment, I took action. I said, I sat on the sidelines way too long. So, I went off and I blindly got into crypto. I said, I'm going to go in. I don't care. We're going to make this work. So purchased my first Bitcoin at $2,000. And, everything was smooth selling, right? Bitcoin was on a bull run, and I had no idea what was going to happen at that time in 2017. So from there, I witnessed my portfolio grow from $2,000 to $20,000. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. How in the world do we just print money like this? And so Bitcoin started to go into its corrective phase, which means it started to pull back, sell off. And, I had been hit to technology, and I followed influencers and thought leaders for a long time. So I had jumped into a project that at the time John McAfee was pumping, which was Verge, which was a private cryptocurrency, which was built off of as a fork of Dogecoin. And so that was when I was like, okay, I'll throw $700 in. And then literally a week later, it was $7,000. I was like, whoa, wait, this is magic money. What's happening right now? And so from there, went through the whole 2018 altcoin rally, seeing money come hand over fist. And then it just started to drop out of nowhere. And I was like, what is this sorcery, right? I saw $7,000 go right back down towards $1,000. I was like, well, I'm still in a profit, but why did I miss out on locking in those $6,000 that I missed out on? I remember sitting on the couch with my then girlfriend, now wife, and was showing, keep hitting refresh, seeing money go up. Then, I'm hitting refresh and I'm seeing money go down. I'm like, what's going on? And so in that moment, I was like, I need to be able to see when tides are starting to shift. I said, at that point, I need to really understand what I'm investing in. Because to me, it was a cash grab. It was throw money here, let's get paid. And that's not how cryptocurrency works, right? So there's cycles that it goes through. So I spent the rest of 2018 deep diving into crypto, understanding blockchain technology, understanding how Bitcoin actually works, what's its use case, reading white papers. White papers are these papers that talk about the innovation, talks about the project, that outlines its roadmap, says we're going to, do feature A, B, C, D, and we're going to do it in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So I started to understand from a fundamental side what I was investing in. So then I got a little savvy, started investigating other cryptos, and I was, making 50, 60% gains, but I still wasn't locking in profit. So when I discovered that, I'm spending all this time, but I'm not really making the money that I want to make, right? Like, I'm over here making like $300, $400 at a time. I'm like, okay, great. Well, I want to know how these big guys are doing it. So then I started to study this thing called technical analysis. And so that's essentially the study of trading charts, Japanese candlesticks, formations, patterns, all types of things that you can look at in a chart to try to predict what the future may hold. And so, 2019, early 2020, I'm continuously just, dollar cost averaging, learning technical analysis, trying to figure out great buy-sell opportunities. And, I still wasn't succeeding like I wanted to. So I started to do more with that knowledge. I started to truly craft that knowledge, practice that knowledge, do paper trading, get my feet under me. So now when the 2020 bull run came around in September, I was well in position. I remember screaming at the top of my lungs, like, after that whole COVID crash, and I saw Bitcoin recover from $3,200 right back up to 6,000, breached 8,000. And I was talking to friends about this. I said, yo, fellas, this might be it. This might be the banger. Like, let's go. So, I put the warning signs out there. If you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, you saw these warning signs at $6,000. Started dumping heavy money into it. I said, I have a wedding I have to pay for. I already, leveraged crypto to purchase an engagement ring. I said I need to be able to fund, all of these other like lifestyle expenses using investments. And so I started to dollar cost average throughout that bull run, buying dips all the way up. And so, the $6,000 Bitcoin turns into a $64,000 Bitcoin. And it's like, yo, I really just made, nearly 1,100% just by buying in over time, right? 10x your money, you got $4,000 invested in that you had, spent investing in crypto over the bear market. And that 4,000 turns into 40,000. It's like, I just turned my phone into a money printer, right? So once you start learning technical analysis, learning how to invest in blockchain, you start to create different streams of income by using your investments actively and passively. And so from there, I started to, deploy test applications on blockchain. I started to really dive into how to code on blockchain, get that experience under my belt so that I can figure out how I can change the world. So I decided to create this community called the Hive Mind Trading Tribe. Back then it was Iron Hands Trading. And essentially I took what I learned and condensed it down into bite-sized chunks and taught it to the people that were a part of my community. And so I started to see, a lot of them having significant results, coming out with 4,000, 5,000% gains. I'm like, no, I think we're onto something here. And so late 2021, I said, this is something that we can teach our communities to begin building wealth inside of an emerging technology, right? Like, we missed that .com bubble. We missed the Amazons, the Apples, the Googles when they were trading at, less than $100, right? Like, Bitcoin eclipsed like nearly $2 trillion in this cycle. So it's like, we're still early, right? Like, I think last time I checked, I don't check gold often, but I think it's like a $14, $15 trillion market cap. So that lets you know that Bitcoin has a long way to go to even just catch up to gold, right? And so that had me continue to push forward in learning this technology and learning how to invest. And so from there, I started my own community where I taught traders, leveraging different crypto education platforms, hands-on tutoring and mentorship. But I realized that, I'm already burnt out over 12 members. So I had to start to automate, develop, innovate, and now I'm servicing over 70 members currently in my Discord group, and we launched 2 months ago. So put all of that aside, we also have the career, the movement into blockchain technology. So now I started to shift my career objectives to align with that. So I joined a company called SAS in Cary, North Carolina, and I started developing leadership skills and understanding how to be a true engineering leader. From there, I went off and joined as a chief technical officer for Go Say Hello app, which is a digital social engagement tool that allows us to break the ice with people that we are in the room with. So imagine your career fairs. Imagine, a social event, a happy hour. You want to meet someone. You break the ice by sending them a hello, a wave, and that occurs over the blockchain, sends them a notification, hello, Jeremy Knox waves at you. So now we have that ice broken. So now you can go and engage with these other leaders in these events. And then now I've also have started a way to challenge and tackle the health crisis. So now I'm a VP of blockchain and metaverse technology for something that is going to really shore up the food deserts in the world. So I'm super excited about that and pumped. And my Synergistic Global Advisors group, oh man, we're really about to change the game, because not only are we out here developing blockchain technologies for various companies, we're also giving back to communities, and we're actually expanding to do code boot camps over in Nigeria. And because a lot of people don't understand, like, the technology boom that is happening over in our African countries, like, they are some of the best blockchain developers out there because they're hungry for it. They understand this technology. They know that this is a way for them to change the world. So we're trying to cultivate that talent. We're trying to raise that talent. And so I'm super pumped about the things that we have coming out of that. So that's just a little bit about where I'm at today. I run a lot of public free education to make sure that I am making my community around me aware of this new emerging market. And it's no fun partying on a yacht by yourself. So why not take your friends to the well so that they can go and have a yacht, and y'all just have a yacht party, right? So that's my goal. It's just to raise the consciousness in financial literacy, and it's really financially irresponsible to not have some exposure to cryptocurrency, especially when you have all of these billionaires and millionaires investing continuously into this technology. So there should be no reason why we can't get into it. Like with Amazon, Google, it's hard for us to get into those markets. You got to buy, with Amazon, you got to buy that $3,000 share whole, right? Whereas Bitcoin is fractional. So instead of you having to pay $45,000, which is the current price of Bitcoin, you can go out and buy $10 worth of Bitcoin, open up your Cash App, open that, say, yes, create me a Bitcoin wallet. And then right there, it says buy, sell. You click that buy button, you type in 10, it takes it out your bank account and gives you Bitcoin right there in your app. It takes 10 minutes to buy your first Bitcoin for $10, right? So I'm super pumped. Let's keep going.
Speaking of financial literacy, let's talk about the history of Bitcoin for people who, might need some more education on it, because we want everybody to win, right? So let's talk about the history.
So Bitcoin, the white paper was written and published in 2008, and essentially it was supposed to be an answer to the inflation crisis that was happening. At that time, we had the housing bubble that crashed, we had subprime mortgages going out of control, and inflation was booming out of control. The dollar was losing value, so it's like, my $10 doesn't go as far at the grocery store anymore. And so the founder of Bitcoin, who goes by this name Satoshi Nakamoto, he has not been ever seen, heard of. Only, maybe 2 or 3 people in the world actually know who he is, right? And I have some theories of who or what Satoshi Nakamoto is. But essentially what he did was develop this protocol that was supposed to become a deflationary protocol. So inflation means your spending power becomes less. Deflationary means your spending power becomes more. So Bitcoin starts trading, less than $1. It was highly volatile or whatnot. But then people started to understand the use case and understand the technology. And that's where we saw it grow from, literally $1 to over $100. And then next thing you know, it's mass hysteria in the world. And so blockchain technology is essentially a distributed, decentralized network of computers or nodes that take a piece of work or transaction, is what we will call it, and it would perform computer algorithms, right? Essentially, it's just mathematical equations in order to process the transaction on the blockchain. Well, the reason why it's deflationary is because there will only be 21 million Bitcoin ever minted or created. So only way that you can create Bitcoin is by mining Bitcoin. Just like how you would mine gold. That's how you create more gold, right? You got to go out and find it. You got to do work, right? So we call this proof of work. So now, if I have this Bitcoin mine and I'm all by myself, it's easy for me to, mine this Bitcoin, distribute it out to, people that are interested in buying it. But now when you start having a competition, it's like, how do I control this algorithm? So the algorithm of Bitcoin becomes increasingly difficult as time goes on. We have these periods. Anytime that someone or a group of people process transactions, then they are rewarded with new Bitcoin. That's the only way you can create new Bitcoin. You can't be the United States Treasury and say, oh, we are in a pandemic, print $2 trillion, let's go. Nah, Bitcoin solves that, right? So that's the reason why you saw a lot of investors rush into Bitcoin in the collapse of 2020, right? And so we went from the lows of $3,200 to the high of $64,000 in a year's time frame, right? So you can never get those kind of astronomical gains in a traditional stock market. So anyway, back to what I'm saying. So you have the whole distributed network of different computers that are processing these transactions. The more and more miners there are in the world, the more difficult it becomes. And then there's this period called the halvening. So the halvening means that every 4 years is the approximate time this happens because it's based off of how many transactions or blocks that are mined. So then your rewards for the blockchain get cut in half. So I think it started off at 50 Bitcoin per block mine was the reward. Then the first halving, it went to 25. Then it went to 12.5. Then it went to 6.25. Eventually, it'll go down to near zero. So with Bitcoin, the supply and demand is what really drives the price, right? Just like anything in this world. Like if I buy a 55-inch TV for $1,000, what's the value of the TV at the time of purchase? It's $1,000. If it's on sale at $800, then guess what? I just got it 20% off. So boom, right? So that's how the dynamics of the technology work. This is how, the whole supply-demand thing generates the price. If somebody's willing to buy Bitcoin for $64,000, hey, they're paying $64,000 for it. If price drops and, the closest ask is $32,000, then the price of Bitcoin is $32,000. It's that simple. There's no, magic behind it. It's strictly mathematics.
Wow. So what brought about this passion for you getting into Bitcoin, though? Why are you so passionate about this?
So I'm passionate about it because, number one, it all starts because I'm a computer nerd, right? I'm a software engineer by trade. And so as I was diving into the code of Bitcoin, I was just impressed just by, the code that was written, how it's open source. A lot of developers were contributing to it, which means that there's massive adoption. Then I started to see, companies that are building on the blockchain, creating disruptive technology that will propel this world forward, the consciousness of this world. And so I really got fired up. It was really, at first, it was a money grab for me. Then I fell in love with the technology and married the technology. And now I'm passionate about the technology because I see the way that it can change the world. It essentially takes power away from centralized entities and puts it back to the people. That's what it was originally designed for. Just like our monetary currencies are controlled by a central organization, the Treasury, right? So one entity can sit here and say, we're going to increase interest rates. We're going to decrease interest rates. And that controls my money, right? Now, if I put the money into the bank, right, they control how much I can get out. They control how much I can put in. If they lose my money, they're only insured up to $150,000. And then on top of that, when it comes to the banks, they can sit here and say, Mr. Knox, you owe taxes. Or they could say, we have a reason to freeze your account. Think Marty Bird from Ozarks, right? Like, things happen, right? People's accounts get frozen. And they can't withdraw that money. If there's a macroeconomic crisis where everybody does a bank run and tries to pull out cash, if the bank can't give you that cash, then guess what? I can't control my money. But with Bitcoin, if I have my own personal wallet and I store my Bitcoins in my wallet, nobody can tell me how to spend that money. Nobody can tell me how to move my money. Nobody can take that money away from me. Unless, of course, you get hacked or somebody robs you, right? Like that's different, right? But, the basics of it is I control what I do with my finances and my money. And you have no say over here. And so that's the beauty of, this decentralized technology is that, you don't have to worry about these big corporate giants like your Amazons, your Facebooks, your Googles. I'm sorry, guys. But, I don't have to worry about that. Like, I take control of my data, my privacy, my information, my spending power, and now I can do whatever I want to do with it. And so that's what started that whole revolutionary mindset is what really gave Bitcoin the catalyst to gain mainstream attention. And now we're in that period where these big companies are now joining in the blockchain industry. They're building blockchains left and right. You just heard about, Facebook changing its name to Meta. Google has built on it. IBM has built on it. Microsoft has built on it. Amazon has built on it. And I bet 99% of people on this call has not invested in blockchain technologies at all. And if you let these big corporate giants come in and steal up all the Bitcoin, guess what? We're going to be, in for a wild ride trying to, catch up to this. So this gives us a way to invest with the big money, right? The big whales. Like, we don't have just retail investors like you and I in here. Like, we have 100 multi-millionaires. We have billionaires in here, right? And these guys they understand the technology. And they're not sitting over here saying it's a scam because they're building on it. They're investing in it. They're putting hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, I just mentioned earlier, Bitcoin is, that whole cryptocurrency market cap peaked out at $2 trillion in this one run. I think it's probably about 1.5 trillion now, right? We just had to pull back from a monstrous run. But we need to really start following the money when it comes to technology. We missed it with, the dot-com bubble. Like, we could have easily been invested in Amazon at $50 a share, right? But, back then we were like, that's a scam. It might go down. We don't know, right? And so with Bitcoin, it just keeps, melting faces as it continues to move up. Bitcoin has never been in what I would consider a true bear market. If you zoom out and look at the 1-year chart, Bitcoin has been on a parabolic run for the past 10 years. It has outperformed any stocks, any precious metals, everything. It has outperformed. And so that's why I'm so passionate, because we're still early. Like, we're just at the tip of the iceberg. This is the tip of the spear. So I'm super pumped because I'm like, it's early. I can bring in my community. I can bring in my family, because I would hate that I had built a seat at the table for myself and I didn't give an opportunity to people that have invested in me personally, from, a support level, emotional perspective, friendship, family, like giving them the opportunity to see what I see. Because when this Web 3.0 takes off, because we're still early, I don't want them looking back and be like, dang, I missed that one too. No, I want them to be involved. And so that's been my passion. I've been fired up to get as many of our people involved in this emerging asset. The world is leaving us in the dust when it comes to blockchain technology. The government can't get, its mind wrapped around regulation, but half of them are invested in Bitcoin, right? So obviously regulation is coming. We have Mark Cuban over here on Twitter, fussing at government, right? We have Michael Taylor over here leading the charge. We have Kathy Wood. So a lot of people that are on this call have probably followed a lot of the ARK investment group strategies, right? So why are you still timid about Bitcoin? So let me not get into the preacher's pulpit right now. I'm gonna save it, but that's why I'm passing it. You can hear it right now.
Absolutely, and I hope people are really like taking notes and taking this in to really gain knowledge of it. If you're not in, you should get in. Like, you should have multiple streams anyway, right? It's all about building legacy and wealth, and so this is definitely one of the ways to do that. And so let's just transition over to blockchain and get more involved in that. So how do you envision blockchain technologies advancing people's lives? Let's talk about that.
So the funny thing about technology is that it affects your life without you even realizing it, right? So, like, when you think about Amazon, you didn't realize, like, everything you do centers around Amazon. We shop online. We go to Whole Foods. That's owned by Jeff Bezos, right? We have a stronger logistics system, shipments. That technology and that whole supply chain was built by companies like Amazon, right? And we didn't realize that all of that dates into that technology that they use. And so blockchain is going to be very similar. You're going to take apps that you're already working on, and you're not going to realize that they're on blockchain. You're going to start seeing speeds increase. You're going to start seeing, data traversing across the globe in different ways. You're going to still have your, YouTubes of the world, but there's also a version of decentralized YouTube. Theta token has been a strong project, right? So a lot of censorship happens on YouTube. Well, Theta gives that back to you because there's no one entity that can shut you down. So when you build on these technologies, it's a lot of things that happen in the back end. So you have platforms where you can build different applications on. Think about your Ethereum or your Solana as Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud platform. You don't know which Google Cloud or Amazon Web Services platform you're using because it's wrapped in the pretty user interface. So you're not even going to be aware that you're using blockchain. But what I'm super excited about is that leveraging blockchain puts the power back into the people. They're going to be able to control their data. They're going to be able to control their identity. They're not going to have to worry about storing all of their central information into a platform like Google or Facebook. They'll be in charge of it. So I don't have to worry about, my information leaking out. If my information leaks out, it's because I let it leak, right? So we're going to start seeing a lot of technology that's built. We're going to see it, with federal currencies. We're seeing central bank digital currencies that are coming out. China's working on one. It's called the digital yuan, where the government will start issuing you tokens that will be spendable at various retailers. And they're going to start doing away with their physical currency. I mean, if you really think about the bank, your bank was the first digital currency. Like, I might have, $15,000 in the bank, but do I physically hold my $15,000? No, it's just a 5-digit number of 15,000, right? But then there's a ledger where it says, well, Jeremy withdrew $100 at this ATM. Jeremy sent, Joe Smo $250 for landscape. So essentially, that transaction becomes the public ledger. So that public ledger provides like a trustless environment where you don't have to, trust a single source because that ledger lives on the nodes of the blockchain. So every blockchain has a copy of that ledger. So, there's a lot of things that blockchain is going to do, and I see that it's going to impact, not only just, our financial way of life, it's also going to impact our health. We're going to start seeing a lot of health apps that are built on it, social engagement apps. I'm already working on one. We're going to see even our professional portfolios go on a decentralized platform. Like, will I think LinkedIn still stay around? Yes, I do. But will there be decentralized competitors on the blockchain? Yes, there will be. And so I'm super excited to see that the United States is now finally catching up in adopting this new emerging technology because, previous to that, China was blowing us out the water. several countries in Africa, including Nigeria, was blowing us out the water with the tech, right? So now America has realized that we need to really embrace this new technology. And that's the reason why Elon Musk was huge about bringing Bitcoin mining here, using renewable energy to fuel those miners so that, we can, as a country, get our stake in the blockchain.
So where are we going? Where is Bitcoin and blockchain technology going? Where do you see it going?
So from a price perspective, the sky's the limit, right? Like a lot of people thought that Bitcoin was going to top out at $100. A lot of people sold. People thought it was going to top out at 1,000, 20,000, 64,000, 69,000. We're currently at 45,000, probably going to get a new all-time high. So we could see, it's realistic that we'll see $100,000 Bitcoin. Will it happen in 2022? There's a probability, like Bitcoin has been making serious strides. We're seeing a lot of companies such as PayPal, Stripe, Twitter. All of these companies are buying into Bitcoin in droves. Like I literally see new major corporations, buying huge amounts of Bitcoin. That's the reason why we haven't gone back down to 20,000, because they're institutional money that's coming in saying, oh, you want to sell your Bitcoin at 32,000? Yes, please. I'll take that. Yoink. And then guess what? You're buying back in at 36,000. Like, oh, wait. Let me catch up. So it's just amazing just seeing like how these mega corporations are investing in blockchain. And currently, one company I'm working for is investing in blockchain. They're exploring different ways of using NFTs, the metaverse, and the way that they're going to, change how they do data analysis. It's going to be revolutionary. And that's what I'm excited about. Like just the way that we embrace the internet, and people were skeptical about the internet and email. Like, why would I send you an email? But now everything you do is based off of email. Everything you do is based off of Google.com search engine, right? Everything you do is online. But we didn't realize that. We were back in, college when Facebook.com came out, and you only had 5 universities on it. Well, now what do you think blockchain is going to do? Blockchain right now is in the Facebook.com era. And soon, you're going to see the blockchain take over just like Facebook did. Facebook has already came out, like, they tried to create their own coin. Government was like, nah, fam. Then, they're working on their own metaverse application. They already have the Oculus technology built, so you can literally put on glasses or goggles, and you're in a different world. And a lot of that stuff is going to be facilitated on the blockchain. And you're going to start seeing digital properties. You're going to see digital art, digital music. We already have streaming applications. We already have Netflix, all types of digital goods. I mean, if you really think about it, the metaverse was already a thing years and years ago when people were playing The Sims, when people were playing Grand Theft Auto. And they didn't realize that this was going to be the new way of how we're going to conduct business in the new world. Like, that's the only thing that was good that came out of this whole COVID pandemic, is that it opened everyone's eyes to, we can do remote work, we can do remote learning, we can do remote financing. Yeah, let's take everything digital. And then we have this technology that is being built by some of the top minds in software engineering. Like, we're seeing job opportunities for software engineers. We were already getting paid lucrative salaries around $125K a year on average. Now we're seeing those salaries double to $250K because the demand for blockchain technology is so great. Like, you can go look at Amazon, you can look at Apple, you can look at Microsoft. We're hiring blockchain leaders. We're hiring blockchain engineers because there's not enough of us to go around. And all it is just coding, right? We always talk about, everybody should know how to code. Everybody should pick up this skill set. And the crazy thing is, actually, I was self-taught when it came down to software engineering. Yeah, I have a computer science degree. I wasn't that great in college. I graduated with a 2.7, whatever. Some of the smartest minds are not that great at, studying Calculus 3, discretionary math, like those kind of physics 1 and 2. I don't care about gravity on Jupiter and how to calculate that, right? I care about solutions to business problems, right? And so that's where I excelled after college, and now I'm like way ahead of a lot of those people that were 3.5 and 4.0s, right? I train a lot of those type of people. So my thing is that, blockchain technologies are going to literally disrupt our lives, and we're not even going to realize it. And it's going to be like, dang, that was built on Solana? That was built on Ethereum? That was built on Polygon? Are you serious? I had no idea. Why didn't I invest in these a long time ago? People are like, Metaverse plays, Sandbox is trading at, it was at $8 at its peak. And I'm sitting over here like, I do realize that, while everybody was sleeping on crypto, Sandbox was trading between 1 and 5 cents for 2 years. And nobody bought it. Nobody didn't understand it. But then Facebook comes out and says, oh, we're building the Metaverse. Meta, we're changing our name, everything. Mark Zuckerberg doing all types of commercials inside the Metaverse. And then they say, that 5-cent coin goes to $8. And you're wondering why these people are becoming millionaires. It's because they're spotting these technologies before companies like Facebook announces that, hey, we're moving on to the blockchain and this is what we're doing with it. I bet people don't even know that Apple is coming out with smart glasses. So now you're going to be able to use your cell phone by wearing some glasses. You're going to see, in augmented reality, you're going to see apps in your room just show up through your glasses. You're going to see artwork on your walls. You're going to see advertisements pop up on your walls. It's crazy what's about to happen. And, I have my theories, but, they use COVID to really push this agenda. Like, let's work from home. Let's do all of this stuff remote, because now we have the technology in place. We don't have to worry about if Amazon goes down, what happens if Amazon goes down? Your website's down. It's done. Well, with blockchain technology, you can't ever go down because all of the data and processing power is distributed across the globe. Whereas with Amazon, you're in, data centers that are distributed. But this gives the power to the people, and the people will maintain the network. So I really see that in the next 10 years, it's going to be a way of life. It's going to be the way that we transact financially. It's going to be the way that we interact with each other. I'm going to, the movie Avatar that we saw, we're going to start shifting our consciousness into the metaverse. And that's how it's going to be. And I'm super pumped because I'm excited. I saw this, years and years ago. But now I can invest in it? Yes, let's go.
I just hope everybody's taking notes, because you giving out all this free knowledge, right? Millions of dollars worth of knowledge that people definitely would have to pay for on a normal day, right? And so for all the skeptical people listening, because we don't want to be telling them, we told you so, right? Bitcoin is currently valued at $45,000. But for the listener that don't have that, how can they get started?
So the way that you can get started is literally download Cash App, open up, create a Bitcoin wallet, and then buy and sell right there. You don't have, there's no magic behind it anymore. When I first came in, I bought my first Bitcoin from an exchange called CoinMama.com, and I had to go through hoops and hurdles to get to it. Previously to that, you would have to go through Mt. Gox, which was, a whole different way of doing it, and then they got hacked. But now we have so many platforms that make it so easy to onboard people into crypto. And that's why it's really booming right now. Because, previously it was hard to get involved, hard to buy your first Bitcoin, hard to get your hands on it. Now it's as simple as downloading an app, opening it up, connecting your debit, credit, bank account, whatever, and hitting the buy button. And a lot of people, they get frustrated because they're like, nah, I can't afford $45,000 to buy one Bitcoin. But if you buy $10 and it goes up 10%, you make $1. If it goes up, 45,000 turns into 90,000, your $10 becomes $20, right? Because it double up. So Bitcoin is fractional. It breaks down into what we call Satoshis, right? And so Satoshis is, think about like Bitcoin being, let's just say for simplicity, Bitcoin is a dollar bill and a Satoshi is a penny, right? So that's how I view Satoshis. It's like how many pennies make up a dollar. So how many Satoshis make up a Bitcoin? So that means I can buy 1 penny worth of Bitcoin. Yeah, there's no limit. There's no like, as long as you can afford 1 Satoshi, you can get into Bitcoin. So you can go through Cash App, you can go through Crypto.com. You see Tom Brady, promoting that in FTX all the time. You're starting to see, superstars promoting these big exchanges. You got FTX, like I just mentioned, and a host of others. I mean, one of the most popular ones before regulations came down on them because of some of the financial products they offer, which are derivatives, was Binance. Binance was like the gold mine when it came to crypto because they listed a lot of the projects in their early phases. But now that other platforms understand it, like Coinbase, they open up, a wealth of cryptocurrency projects that you can invest in today. There are projects that you can buy for 2 cents per coin. There are some that you can buy for less than a penny. A lot of people get caught up in meme tokens. I never recommend that, not financial advice, right? So I never recommend meme coins because they're just a joke. I recommend you follow good technology, something that's going to change the world. Dive into the website. Look at CoinMarketCap. That's the biggest thing, coinmarketcap.com. And you go into that platform, you get access to all the cryptocurrencies that are listed out there, minus a couple that haven't made it to CoinMarketCap yet, but that's probably because they launched within like the past 2 weeks to 3 weeks or whatever. But you can go in there, you can look at the description of these projects, see what their trajectory is by looking at the white paper, understanding the absolute fundamental parts of the technology. It's how I discovered Theta, which is the decentralized YouTube that went from 5 cents to $15 at the high, right? And now it's trading around $5. So you can go in and you can find all of these type of gems. Just think about some of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. And you're like, I wonder if there's just a decentralized project that's like that. Go find that project. Invest in that project. And you don't have to buy like $1,000 in a project, $10,000 in a project, and, in order to strike it rich. You can just buy over time. I like to call this the strategy dollar cost averaging. So dollar cost averaging, say, let's treat crypto like a savings account. After you get your paycheck, make sure you have your savings, get your 6-month savings up. But then whatever you have left over, go buy some Bitcoin, go buy some Ethereum, go buy some Solana. You don't even have to look at the price. Don't even look at the chart. Your price will average out, and then when the markup period happens, just like we saw in 2020 and 2021, and that thing goes nuclear, that's how millionaires are made. A lot of people get crypto confused and think that you have to be a trader in order to make it big in this industry. No, I know, several millionaires that went from zero to hero just by buying their cryptocurrency once a month or twice a month, saying, I'm just going to put $200 in. I'm going to put $300 in. I'm going to skip going out to eat. I'm going to cook at home. That's going to save me, $12 on the average lunch special per day. I take $12 per day over the week. That's $60. I could put that on Bitcoin, right? That $60, if just that 1 week alone, had this been a year and a half ago, you bought that $60. We're over here at 69,000 a year and a half later. That $60 becomes $600. But people don't understand that. People don't understand the power of investing over time. They look at it as like, oh, Bitcoin's too high right now. I don't think I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna wait till it comes back down. And then they look, they got the clown face, the clown paint and makeup on their face. Like, dang, it really just tripled up on me. Knox, is it a good time to get in now? What, Jimmy? Jimmy, please help me understand, Jimmy. We were talking about this back at 6,000, and now you wanting to know, is 18,000 a good time to buy? Don't ask that question. Just break up your purchase. Don't put all 10,000, don't put all $100 in on the first trade. If you got $100, put $10 in. Then go 2 weeks, put another $10. Just build that over time, right? Nothing saying rush in, have FOMO. You're not going to miss out. The party's going to keep going with or without you. So it's up to you on how you get into the market. And so I always say that, the fastest way to get into crypto is through these exchanges. I have a lot of them listed in my social media profiles. I'll make sure to give that link out towards the end of the presentation. But you can get involved through exchanges. You can get involved through NFTs, metaverse. But the quickest way to get into crypto is through your Cash Apps, your Coinbase, your Crypto.coms, and things of that sort.
And speaking of NFTs and metaverse, let's talk about NFTs. That's the new wave, and it's early, right? So, let's talk about that for the people who might want to know more about that and really how to get in and invest in NFTs.
Yeah, so, a lot of us grew up collecting collectibles. So, your old man had a coin collection that he probably passed down to you. Probably had the whole 50-state map, and then you putting in coins in there. That's a collectible, right? That coin is a collectible. You have a Michael Jordan rookie card, or you have, Seth Curry's rookie card. That's a collectible, right? Or you even just have the original copy of Babyface's first album, right? That's a collectible. So now with NFTs, we're essentially making collectibles digitized, right? So we're having unique digital assets that are one of a kind. Sometimes you have like different collections that can have, one to, many different collectibles in it. But each one of them has a perceived value once they begin trading. So it's easy to say, I got, some Concords, some old retro Jordans, and I can sell my retros to you for $230. Well, now in the digital world, I'm going to have digital retro Concords. They only made 10 of these, bro. I'm selling mine at $300, right? That gives it value. That gives it demand. Another thing about NFTs is that it also powers the artist, because now, they go through all of these record deals. They're getting the short end of the stick. Well, if they launch their album as an NFT, they always get paid royalties, and they don't have to go through a middleman. It cuts a lot of that middleman stuff out. When you think about NFTs in gaming, like someone told me last night, actually, one of my mentors said, NFTs are the base building blocks of the metaverse. And when you sit there and you really think about it, it's like, yeah, I get it, because everything is an asset. Everything is a digital asset. So I take it back to like when I used to play The Sims in my younger age, and then when I was playing Grand Theft Auto once I got older, like properties, digital real estate, digital vehicles that I used to be, fancy online in video games, clothing items. If you play the games that involve like dungeon runners, so like you got swords and armor pieces, those are NFTs. And so they all hold value. Right now, in today's world, they hold value to the company that sells it to you. But in this metaverse that we're all moving towards, I can sell that armor to someone else for value, and they pay me back in tokens. And so with NFTs and metaverse, we're going to start interacting digitally. So art pieces that go into your digital classroom, that's an NFT that someone paid for, your university paid for, right? We're going to start seeing, a lot of these remote learning happen in the metaverse, especially when Apple launches these smart glasses. That's game over. Everybody's going to get them, right? A lot of people have iPhones. If they don't have it, they're going to switch to an iPhone, abandon Android, dump that, break it on the ground. But you're going to be able to go into this metaverse, and you're going to be able to engage with people in your class and not really be in person. So I'll be able to engage with your avatar. I'll be able to go up to the whiteboard, draw on the whiteboard. Like, it's going to be insane, because now I don't have to move to attend a university. I don't have to move to be a part of a tech startup. Like, I can do everything remotely. So the easiest way to get into NFTs, I got a lot of information on jeremyknox.com under the free crypto education section. There are different marketplaces such as OpenSea, Variable, Mintable.com, and there's a host of others out there that host these different digital collections of art. They also host like videos. I remember seeing like digital videos of like LeBron dunks going for, 1 to 2 Ethereum. Ethereum at the time was $2,500. So, somebody's making $2,500 to $5,000 for a LeBron dunk, but they own the rights to that. Anytime that video is used, they get paid a royalty out. So there's this, it's a deep industry, and we're only scratching the surface. NBA is already involved, NFL is getting involved. Soccer clubs, they have their own fan tokens, so their fans are able to, through their NFTs, make decisions for the organization, right? Like, that's a whole nother concept. DAO systems are a whole nother concept. And that's one thing that we're specializing with Synergistic Global Advisors are DAO structures. So, the possibilities are endless. And, you see people, the news articles, oh, this JPEG of a monkey goes for like, $30 million. Don't let that fool you. Reason why those go for like $30 million is because of, the communities behind them. There's probably some kind of utilization. So say that they have that Bored Ape or something like that, they get access to conferences and, sporting events, backstage passes to concerts, things like that. So you're not going to be able to go into Microsoft Paint and, just come up with some JPEG art and then list it for sale and, become a millionaire. No, you got to have something unique. What makes your NFT unique? Is it the artwork? Is it the music? Is it access to something? Like, what kind of benefits do I get for buying your NFT? Is it a gateway to an investment group? Yeah, sign me up. I'll pay for that NFT. But a lot of people, go broke investing in building all this artwork, but they don't have like a following. Nobody knows who they are, so their NFTs be worthless. So the thing is, it's like with NFTs, you got to drive the demand. I mean, it goes back to the very fundamentals of trade, going back to the dark ages when we would trade food for tools, or we would trade, crops for access to some kind of event at the Roman Colosseum, right? Like, it's a supply and demand thing. Like, why would I demand your supply? Does it have value? Like, what do I get out of it? And then that's what determines the price of it. It's not like you can just go up there and say, it's worth $200 and expect people to buy it up. No, that thing's going to sit out there for 6 months. We're starting to see a shift towards digital real estate. So those are NFTs, right? Because they're unique properties hosted in a unique metaverse, and it's in a unique location. So now you're starting to see literally what I talked about 3 months ago. I was like, you're going to start seeing digital real estate brokers, and you're going to see digital real estate agents. Man, somebody went and bought a property in Sandbox next to Snoop Dogg for $400,000. How did they do it? Because they saw value in living next to Snoop Dogg in the metaverse. So they're like, yeah, I'll pay $400,000 for it. Just like, why would I buy a house in this specific development that's in, what's perceived as a wealthy location? I might pay, $500,000 for this style house. But if it's over here in, an underserved location where, there are, lower land values, it could be worth $50,000, right? So what's the supply and demand? You might not even be able to sell the house. So that's the reason why with NFTs, you really need to dive in to really understand what they fundamentally are. Ignore the news articles about Snoop Dogg buying this NFT. Ignore it about Steph Curry getting into NFTs. Understand why they're getting into NFTs and the value that these NFTs bring.
And let's just talk about, before we wrap it up, the metaverse. Why let's talk about that for everybody that wants to know more about that, why people are getting into that. You can talk a little bit about that.
The metaverse is going to change the way that we interact with each other. what the pandemic showed us is that we don't have to be in person to achieve a common goal at work. We don't have to be in person to, learn physics 1 or physics 2 or do differential equations. We don't have to be in person to do work anymore or even have family meetings or family gatherings. All of that stuff is going to be in a digital universe. And we already experienced this, right? So, like, if you really think about it, Facebook was already building its own metaverse. It's just we didn't realize it was happening until they announced it. Like, a lot of our engagement online is digital. Like,
Right.
I think I've seen you one time in like the past 2 years, right, before COVID. But, we talk frequently and we communicate frequently through these type of applications, right? That's a metaverse. Like, meta means beyond this universe, right? If you think about, like, Avatar, where the guy transforms his consciousness into an avatar and is able to engage with the tribe, and he tries to stop his people from coming in and destroying the tribe. That's what it's going to be. We're going to shift our consciousness from real life into a digital life. Like, I remember when I used to play this game called Grand Theft Auto, I really thought I was the kingpin. I thought I had, I was running multiple businesses, driving fancy cars, flexing. I had an organization over 100 gamers. I was big dog in Grand Theft Auto. I had $100 million in my bank account. Like, yo, what's up? I'm living in the penthouse suite, got my own yacht. I'm over here communicating to people through microphones and headsets. I'm over here buying assets. I'm buying yachts. I'm buying penthouses. I'm buying mansions in the game. And I didn't realize that I literally projected my consciousness into a video game, into a digital world, and I was navigating that. It got so bad to the point where I'm sitting in front of a 60-inch TV that's curved playing the game just so that I'm more immersed into it. Facebook has Oculus Vr headsets. You're going to see AR, which is augmented reality. VR is virtual. Going to start taking off like crazy. If you know of any AR, VR companies, not financial advice, but start loading up in those. Because when Meta, aka Facebook, sets the standard for Metaverse, and they're going to start allowing people to build their own apps, their own metaverses, their own chat rooms. Think about like your when you go on there, they're allowing you to create chat rooms, voice chat rooms. We're engaging digitally. We can exchange money digitally through Facebook Pay, through PayPal, through Venmo, through Cash App. We're already going towards digital currency, right? We're starting to slowly kill off the dollar, phase that out. We already started killing it off when we took it off the gold standard. Then the Feds just keep printing money. So now people are like, well, we don't really need to use cash to engage with each other because we're not engaging in person. So let's engage digitally. So now everything is becoming remote. And so that's the reason why I'm like, the metaverse is the way, because I lived in the metaverse and didn't realize I was living in the metaverse for several years. Now that there's technology that is moving towards it, I'm like, dang, I was really, really ahead of my time. And you got to think about it. These companies were printing, hundreds of billions of dollars. Look at their stock prices. Take-Two Interactive, that owns Rockstar, which owns Grand Theft Auto. Hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into those games. Imagine what's going to happen when Facebook launches the metaverse.
It's gonna be amazing.
The doors to the church are open. Like, I feel like people need to understand that when it comes down to technology, you don't want to be behind the curve, right? Like, you really want to start getting involved and educated in new emerging technologies. You don't want to be left in the dust. And so I, highly recommend that you take at least 30 minutes a day and read something on blockchain, read something on metaverse, read something on NFTs. I have a bunch of, education articles, but you don't have to get it from me. There's plenty of it on YouTube. There's plenty of it out there if you Google it. There are plenty of your friends that are probably involved in this and all you got to do is have a conversation with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I advise that everyone tap into a group, a community. And I remember when I started off on this, I was a lone wolf. So now I have a community behind me, and we're changing the lives of hundreds of individuals around us. And so I highly recommend to not take this walk alone and to join a tribe of individuals with like minds and to get involved with learning this technology, because you don't want to get left in the dust. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to turn it over to you to close this out.
Absolutely. You know, I wanted people to really suck all this knowledge in. That's why I wanted you to talk more so people can really understand what's going on around them. So, you know, a year from now, maybe 2-3 years from now, we won't just be like, we just told you, you know, you didn't listen, you didn't take action. So, I mean, take the risk, you know, just jump in there and figure it out later. You know, it's better than saying, hey, I wish I would have done it, right? So just get out there and see what happens. What I would tell everybody to do that definitely need to, that wanted to learn more about cryptocurrency. And that's why I bring experts on like Jeremy and other people to really educate. Like, Jeremy didn't say this, but he's created multiple millionaires as well. So the results are here. And so if you're definitely interested in getting into cryptocurrency, NFTs, metaverse, all of that, definitely invest in his community. Get out here and get in these rooms with people who are smarter than you. Like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room anyway, you know? So just make sure that you're getting out here, getting in these rooms with people who are doing it, that have the results, right, to help you get in the game. To help you get in the game. So I always ask my guests this question, Jeremy. How did you create your seat at the table?
So I created my seat at the table, you know, through the desire to learn more. I always had a thirst for knowledge. I always asked questions. I always, you know, had self-driven education. I said, I'm the only one that can teach me. Like, I can go and pay, you know, professors out here a college tuition, and I still not learn anything. And so what I realized is that I put my hands on something, I put my mind to it, I then began creating my seat at the table by taking action, learning this technology, actually tinkering with it from a financial aspect, diving into what fundamentally drives the price of Bitcoin, what fundamentally drives the price of Ethereum, what, you know, looking at calendars of projects. Like, I was able to create my seat at the table by developing this knowledge, you know, by getting my, I like to say, my honorary doctorate from YouTube University. That's how I learned a lot of this stuff, and I condensed, you know, between YouTube. I also had been a part of several paid membership groups where I took bits and pieces of lessons, learned from them. I learned from some of the best traders in the game just by watching their YouTube technical analysis on Bitcoin. That's how I learned how to trade. Like, oh, you saw this descending triangle, crypto Kirby? All right, well, let me see if I can find this in the future so that I can save myself from a 50% drop from $6,000 to $3,000. Because that hurt the first time. And so I took those lessons, those financial impacts, as the cost of tuition. You pay a university anywhere between $20,000 and $70,000 for a 4-year degree. When all of this information is already out there, like, you create your seat at the table by going out and actively taking action on things that you know about, learning about them, tinkering with them, experimenting. It's okay to fail. You're going to fail. And it's okay, because the failures are actually wins because you learn from your failures. So if you fall flat on your face, you know, tie your shoes next time. Or get shoes that fit your feet better. So now you're not falling on your face anymore. You take that lesson, you build on the next lesson. It's not going to be something where you're going to go from zero to hero overnight. I always preach with my Hive Mind trading group that my goal is to decrease your time to onboard into crypto 50% faster. So I have a 90-day window for people. Like, I don't expect you to come in knowing everything. You're never going to have enough information. You're never going to be able to come in and be like, I just made my first 100K trade today, day one. No, you're probably going to take a 10% loss. But day 90, you're going to understand why that 10% loss happened, how to spot that 10% loss in the future, and protect yourself against that 10% loss. And then when you get those 20% gains, how do I lock in those gains? Not how do I see when to sell? I get that question a lot, Ashley. It's like, when do I sell? Well, I tell you how to look for the signs to know when to sell. Or you can just sell whenever you feel like you made enough money. You know, there's people that feel like they doubled up. I'm good. I'm going to sit on the sidelines. There are people that became millionaires and like, I'm not good. I'm going to take this 10 million. Right? And you're right. Like, there are a lot of closet millionaires out here. A lot of them never get. Because they took action while everybody thought about skepticism.
Right.
And fear of learning something new.
Right. That separates the poor from the rich, right? Because the poor thinks it's a scam. So tell us this, right? You know what I mean? What can we expect from you? Because I don't want my sister-in-law to get me, so I got to get you on off of here. But what can we expect from you, right? What can we expect from you the rest of 2022? You know, we know you have the community. You've already, you know, have helped people, I mean, hundreds of people, you know, get into this game and really become successful. So what can we expect from you in this new year of 2022?
Man, in this new year, we're going to take what we did in 2021 through 2017, and we're going to 10x that. You know, my goal is to help over 10,000 people get into crypto and understand and have crypto literacy, right? We're not even going to say financial literacy. We're going to say blockchain literacy. We're going to also change the way that they live their lives by promoting strong ways to be involved in the metaverse. We're going to also change health and wellness by leveraging blockchain technology. And I can't wait to start talking about that. I'm super fired up about that. And so in 2022, we have a lot of work to do, but I promise you that you're going to see these things and you're going to be amazed and be like, oh, y'all were lucky that y'all got in. No, you're not going to understand our story. You're not going to understand the struggle because you didn't take action. You didn't understand those long nights of diving into videos and technology and understanding this for what it's worth. So, you know, we're not lucky. We just took the time. We took the action. And so now I implore you to take the action. And so there's ways to get in touch with me. I have a link tree, linktr.ee/Jeremy Knox Crypto. Or JeremyKnox.crypto. It's one of those two. I think it's JeremyKnox.crypto. You can find me on Instagram, HiveMindTrading.crypto. You can find me on YouTube, Jeremy Knox Crypto. Y'all know my name, Jeremy Knox. Find me that way. So, you know, I'm super excited. I'm super pumped. I'm super excited to continue educating people that are uneducated in blockchain. That's my passion. I don't want the people that are already invested in blockchain or, you know, these super traders out here. I want to go out and reach, you know, average Joe at the water cooler and change his life. I want to go and talk to Cindy over here that's buying milk and change her life because there's a lot of power in this new industry. And so through the projects that I'm working on, through the education that I'm providing day in and day out, you know, I do a lot of real-time analysis inside of my Hive Mind Trading Tribe. So if you really want to get involved with crypto, you know, join our community. You can find that on jeremyknox.com. And, you know, I highly advise that you get involved with a strong group of traders and investors so that, you know, you can succeed in this industry. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate this.
You are welcome. And look, you know, everybody, what I want everybody to take from it, you know, it's a lot of knowledge you took from the call tonight, but it don't take but $10 to get started. $10 to jump in the game. You know, just $10. So remember that, you know, just to get in the game. Just don't get left out, you know, because we hate to let you know Jeremy, 2 or 3 years from now, that we told you so, okay? So just remember this interview. Thank you for coming to the table, my good brother, Jeremy, for everybody that did not know, my good brother and friend, for coming to the table to share this amazing knowledge that you have shared tonight. And I hope everybody go back and listen to it and really get involved seriously in building wealth and creating those streams of income. And you always have a seat here at the table, my good brother.
Thank you, my sister. I really appreciate it.
A special shout out to my sister-in-law, Shar. I know she's listening, but I'm going to go ahead and close this out. So you have a great night, and I look forward to bringing you back.
Awesome. I'll be ready whenever you invite me back.
You are welcome. Good night. So I would like to give a special thanks to my intern, Sarah, who is now a graduate of Tennessee State University. And I would also like to give a special thanks to my intern, Vontaria, who is a student at Winston-Salem State University. You all may follow me on Facebook at Dr. Ashley Little and on Instagram at _Ashley A. Little. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Creating Your Seat at the Table, where Ashley speaks with corporate professionals, celebrities, entrepreneurs, authors, and speakers who are transitioning or have transitioned to entrepreneurship.